Let's try that again. This is Lydia Grant, President of the Sunland Tonga Neighborhood Council. I am calling to order the special meeting today on August 26th. This is a special board and committee member and committee chair training. This is so that our board can work together with our committees more cohesively. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I called the meeting to order at 1:05. Introductions. Cindy, can you take down the agenda for right now? I may ask you to put it back up, but I want to do the introductions without it in the way. So when I come around to do introductions, I'd like to know, one, why did you join the board? If you're on a committee, what do you want to accomplish with the committee? And if you're not on a committee, what committee would you like to be on? So I'll go ahead and start. We'll start with Roger. Roger, you're at the top of the list.
Sure. Audio is being funny.
I can hear you.
Okay. I am chair of the beautification committee. I joined the beautification committee partly because I was the instigator of the Welcome Nature Garden at Sunland Boulevard and the 210 freeway. And I am passionate about native plants, and I'm hoping to have, infuse native plants into any subsequent community project. I've been fortunate to work with the beautification committee and do a bunch of wonderful things in the community, and basically hope to make the community a better place.
Thank you, Roger.
Sure.
Okay. Next we'll go with me. I'm Lydia Grant. I have been on the board off and on and have been involved in the neighborhood council for almost 20 years. I'm a former bonk commissioner. I'm very involved in a lot of the outside organizations for neighborhood councils, like the Los Angeles Neighborhood Council Coalition, the Roundtable for Presidents, and the WG4 committee, which is a new committee trying to help fix the problems at the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment so that the neighborhood councils would find it easier to do their jobs and with more support. I am the president. I'm also on the executive committee. I'm also on the SIGA committee, which is Community Improvement and Government Affairs, and I'm on the Budget and Finance committee. Cindy, go ahead.
Okay. Hi there, everybody. I'm Cindy Cleghorn, and I am corresponding secretary this term for the Neighborhood Council. I've been around since the Neighborhood Council certification time, and I just kind of fell into it because I'd moved my business here. And like everything else I got involved in, I fell into it, whether it was land use, whether it was being involved in the Neighborhood Council Congress. I never dreamed that I would be chairing some of these things, but it worked out that way. I chair also the Plan Check NC now. That's been around. It's a alliance for those interested in land use issues across the city. It's just, getting folks more informed about things around them has been an important thing for me. And I enjoy working with people and coming, to a place where we can try to make improvements. I'm sad to see that in our community, after 20 plus years now, that we are not further along than we could be, but we've come a long way. So anyway, I'm here to help and to serve, and look forward to new folks stepping up and getting involved. And I don't know if that's all you wanted in terms of a rundown, Lydia, but there you go. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So Ross Herman, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join this. I appreciate the invitation and look forward to working with everybody. I've been in Sunland Tonga for about 10 years now, since I moved out here to California, and it just seemed like things weren't going really well. So I wanted to get involved and see who was in charge of the decisions and see kind of what the atmosphere was with the people that were making the decisions, and kind of what their restraints were on it and what their motivations were and everything. So I decided to come to the neighborhood council meetings just to see those kind of things. And then it seemed like it was a good group of people. So I wanted to join and kind of do my part. I do believe that it's kind of everyone's civic duty to give back to their neighborhood and their communities. So I wanted to do that. And this seemed like a great opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ross. Do you have a particular committee of interest so far?
Actually, yeah, I do. I was going to mention that as well. So the community improvement and government affairs is probably number one, that or public safety. But I'm honestly, since I'm new, I'm open to wherever the need is. If some other committee needs, more people or more resources, I'm happy to go wherever I'm needed.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl Schmidt. Cheryl, if you're not ready, I can move on to share. Oh, there you are.
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Sure, yes.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Schmidt and I'm the public safety representative. I served on the board last term as well, mainly on the outreach committee. So I'm going to continue on that committee and help Moppy out. I love connecting with community and being at different events and manning the table, making those connections. And then with public safety, my goal is to have a meeting, not every month, but maybe quarterly, so every 3 months, and connect people to LAPD, LAFD, emergency preparedness, and just unite together as Sunland Tahunga, just how to make it a safer place. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry, go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Sherry McCoy. I've been in the community over 20 years and have attended the meetings when they were up at the other building there over the course of time. Particular interest in land use over the years because of the development that continues to happen in the area. In terms of joining the council, I actually completed the term of someone who stepped down or left the area. I forget the particulars, but that was last term, and then had the privilege of continuing with the recent no elections. So in terms of committees, I have attended several of them. One of the benefits of today is to get a more firm understanding of what committees are in need of assistance, probably all of them. I can't do all of them, but to focus my efforts on some interest areas like reaching out to neighbors and making sure local folks know where their resources are, and really breaking down lines of particular affiliations and finding common ground on safety, just being good neighbors, making our community better, and so forth. So thanks for hosting today. I look forward to learning more and getting plugged into a committee.
Thank you, Sherry. Karen Moran.
Yeah, hold on just a minute. No, I'll put my my camera on. Okay, well, I'll try to. Okay, I've been a resident for 23 years now, and John Van Gunten actually got me going with Neighborhood Council. At the time when I moved in, I just automatically gravitated to having meetings at my house for the local neighbors and getting out emails to them and trying to make a cohesive group. And John recognized that interest and that passion that I had, and he thought that I would be a good fit with the Sunland Tahunga Neighborhood Council. And I always had the adage that, more hands make fewer work, make less work. So wherever I can fit in and whatever I can do, although I'm relatively a newcomer, I'm still 2 years in Neighborhood Council, and a lot of you guys have been here so much longer. It's very different from what my job is. So I'm still learning all the time, and Cindy has been so patient with me. So I appreciate that. And I think that's about, I've been heavily involved. I have been for 23 years. I've been here with my church, Our Lady of Lourdes, and in a lot of ways. So this is just a natural way to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We have a call-in user. I'm going to go over to that side and allow them to talk. Hold on one second. Call-in user 1. Did you wish to speak?
Do they have to press *6 or *9? I can't remember.
I'm clicking for them to unmute.
I think they have to press *6 or *9.
First, they
on
have,
this one.
they'll get the message that says to unmute, but they're not unmuting, or they're not getting my message. It's not going through. Okay, we'll go. Okay, we'll finish and then I'll try it again. Patty Potter. Patty is not responding, so we'll go on to Moppy and we'll come back to Patty.
Hi, everyone. I'm Moppy, and I am new to the council this year. I'm really excited to be serving as the outreach chair. I joined the neighborhood council because I love talking to my neighbors. I love living in Sunland, Tahunga. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to make things better and just really engage with friends and neighbors. McGraw has hosted so many awesome social events that I've met a lot of different families. I have a family of my own, so it really motivated me to see how you can kind of organize to kind of show all of the fun things that are happening in the area. And once I started joining some of the meetings, it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of more, not serious, but just the vast amount of opportunity across all of the committees. So my goal this year as the outreach chair is really to our internal kind of communication, understanding of our roles, how we're connected to each other in regards to not only our roles, but our committees, how the team and the committees are working together, and honestly, how we're working with all of the different city officials that are coming into the fold, all of the different city resources that are available to us, and how we're helping promote that to, again, just our neighbors, our friends. I'm really passionate about marketing and promotions, and so I've gotten really excited, and there's definitely a lot of work to do, and I appreciate everyone's patience with the ideas and some of the structure that I have, but I understand now at this point just how everyone needs to be with the process, and really how oh, one sec. My son is here today, how just working together respectfully and being really focused is going to help us continue progression. So excited to be here. Thank you for organizing and look forward to meeting everyone. And
Thank you, Moppy. Patty Potter. Patty, can you hear me?
Yes, how's that now?
Perfect.
I got a new laptop, so I've been trying to experiment with the camera, and now I forget how to put it on. I'll put it on real quickly. I don't like cameras. Anyway, I'm Patty Potter. I've lived in Sunland, Tahunga all my life, which you could figure out by looking at me. It's a long time. I'm Land Use Committee. I was on the board for 2 terms. Now I'm just on the Land Use Committee as a co-chair. And that to me is what's important, is trying to get these businesses to look good and trying to help that we don't have building put in or unlicensed businesses, but it's not always, doesn't always work. So anyway, that's all I really have to say.
Thank you, Patty. Okay, I'm jumping to Carol.
Okay, yeah, my name is Carol Hutchinson. This is actually my 3rd term on the board. When I retired a few years ago, because I usually worked evenings and missed everything. So anyway, then I started getting out and I started meeting people in the community, and I started seeing a lot of things that concerned me. And anyway, through a series of unrelated events, I met Patty Potter. And through Patty Potter, I started learning more about the board, and I just decided to run. And my first term was as a stakeholder, I mean, a region rep, I'm sorry. And then last term I became secretary, and this term I am now treasurer. So learning all kinds of new trades. But, you know, I would really like to see the neighborhood council system grow stronger. I think, and I don't know if it's the neighborhood councils, you know, it's somewhat at fault, but I see them losing any power, any authority, any seat at the table with when it comes to being involved with the city. And what I seek in the community is they think that basically the NC system is just a piggy bank for little projects, but it's so much more than that. I mean, we're supposed to be speaking with the city council. They're supposed to be listening to us when it comes to our community. And I would really, this is what I'm really hoping that to get to in this new term, is that we do start being more of a force at City Hall, in the community, that we're starting to make people aware of the NC system, that they start coming out, they start participating, and you know, because everybody's voice adds up. And so this is what I hope to see for the next term. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Mark, go ahead.
Mark.
Hi there. Okay, I'm back. I'm not feeling real well. My voice is affected dramatically. But I'm here for education to find out what we can do to move the neighborhood council forward from all the different things that are opposing it. And it was a great idea when it was first created. Seems to have gotten a little sidelined. Let's work towards getting it back on track. You guys have a good day, and I'm going to learn something.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, call-in user. I'm still clicking for you to unmute. You might want to sign out and sign in again. For some reason, I can't get you unmuted. Try star 6 to unmute yourself. I don't see it unmuting. You might want to go out and come back in. We're going to go on to Doug Epperhart. The reason I had Doug Epperhart join us today is because Doug puts a different spin on things. Doug is a president from another neighborhood council, former bonk commissioner, and I go to Doug's meetings, and Doug and I mostly agree, but we don't always agree. And so I thought it would be good if we looked at some of these topics from two different angles, from two neighbor councils that do it two different ways. So Doug is going to be piping in on anything he has to add. And I'll be stopping and asking him if he wants to give information or if he'd like to, you know, add something. So Doug, I introduced you a little bit, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
No, that's fine. I would just point out I've been doing this forever. I have a background in journalism and politics in particular. I guess Lydia is right in the sense that I approached neighborhood councils 20 plus years ago when we established the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. For those of you way up at the other end of town, I actually am sitting in my office looking out the window at the Pacific Ocean. So I don't know if being from the bottom of the map brings a different perspective, but you know, I've been doing this a long time. I have a background in, you know, parliamentary procedure, have served on various governmental entities going all the way back to college when I was in student government. Well, believe it or not, on a board that had a budget about 3 times in the 1970s what I have as a neighborhood council president. So I have a lot of experience. You know, the most valuable thing here for me today is what good ideas you have that I can steal from my neighborhood council. So understand that you guys probably have perfectly good answers, and whatever anybody wants to ask, I'll be happy to pipe up on. But really, I'm not nearly as smart as Lydia or anybody else would make me out to be.
Well, we definitely appreciate Doug's input. Doug just presented to the neighborhoods committee with me for the WG4 committee. That's the committee that's looking to improve neighborhood councils. And we talked with those council members on issues like having trouble with meeting spaces and some of the issues that we're facing with the department and with the way the city council is. And it was a really good presentation. If you want to listen to it, it was the last neighborhoods committee, but you know, we are out there. We are trying to make the system better for everybody. One of the things about Doug that's kind of interesting is most of the neighborhood councils in the city, we all have the same issues. We all, and I mean, we have traffic, we have issues around our schools, we have issues with enforcement from the police, we have homeless issues. A lot of us across the city have those things in common, but in each community, it's different. And what I mean by that is, while we were worried about in the last rain we had mudslides or, you know, the streets getting flooded, Doug's area was worried about the surf. They were worried about the winds and boats, and so they have a totally different it's a completely different environment. I've got to spend a lot of time down there lately, and it is a completely different environment. Doug, did you want to speak to that for 1 second?
It is a completely different environment. I would point out that out of the 99 neighborhood councils, Coastal San Pedro is the, as far as I know, we are the only neighborhood council in the entire city, for instance, which includes military housing. We have 3 sites here in Coastal San Pedro under the aegis of the Los Angeles Air Force Base, which I bet a lot of you don't even know exists. And we include several hundred military dependents, primarily US Air Force and active duty officers living here in Coastal San Pedro. So believe it or not, we have interaction with the federal government on a regular basis because they are stakeholders. We also include, and I believe the Wilmington Neighborhood Council, maybe the only other one, we have a number of stakeholders who live on boats, for example, and they have issues. So yeah, it can be a very different environment. We have beaches down here. We have 2 beaches, Royal Palms and Cabrillo. We have, I don't know, you name it. We deal a lot with parks issues. We are one of the few really park-rich areas in the city, but it also means we get literally thousands of visitors on weekends. So yeah, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, and that is one of the beauties of the neighborhood council system is, while we all have those issues that we agree, you know, we definitely agree on and that we try to work together on, it's really important that we support the other neighborhood councils with their local issues. Whether it's the port, whether it's, hold on 1 second, whether it's the port or whether it's a neighborhood council that's worried about, I can't even think of something off the top of my head, but each area has other issues. So sometimes you'll see we bring something up and it'll be like, why are we worried about this? And that's because if we let those neighborhood councils fight it themselves, they won't get they won't get the help that they need. And we all need to work together. And that's one of the things that we do through the Link Coalition and through the committee, and just with each other by emailing each other. And you know, one of our biggest issue are road diets. Some of the other issues have some of the other neighborhood councils have road diets, but if we're just fighting it alone, we can't win. We all have to work together. So I'm going to go on now to, I pulled a couple things from some of the manuals, and I'm going to kind of go through this quickly because I want a lot of time for people to interact. The purpose of neighborhood councils, and this is really important because a lot of the neighborhood council leaders think that the neighborhood councils are here to do community improvement projects, or they're to give money to nonprofits, and that's actually not the purpose of neighborhood councils. The purpose of neighborhood councils is to promote more citizen participation in government and make government more responsible to the local needs. A citywide system of neighborhood councils and a Department of Neighborhood Empowerment was created, and it includes representatives of many diverse interests in communities, and shall have an advisory role on the issues of concern for the neighborhood. Now, I know you guys have these documents, or they're available to you, so I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I just want you to know that when we talk about NPGs are one of the biggest things that different neighborhood councils do differently. Our neighborhood council, when we sat down and talked about it, we decided that, well, first of all, we don't have a lot of extra money, but if we had extra money, our purpose is outreach. Our job as a neighborhood council is to do outreach to the community, to meet the community members, to find out how they feel about the issues that we're voting on, and then to go to City Hall and make sure that our voices are heard. One of the things that I hear a lot about some of the people in our community who attack our neighborhood council is, well, you don't get along with the council member. You don't agree with what she says. It's not our job to agree with our council member. It's our job to stand up for our community. And if the council member is voting on something that is not good for our community, like defunding the police, which the majority of our community did not want, then it is our job to stand up to that. And regardless if people like that or not, that is our job. When NPGs were started, it was mostly so that if a neighborhood council wanted to do something like plant trees along the boulevard, and then you wanted to be able to water those trees because the city required they be watered for 5 years, then the neighborhood council could go to a nonprofit that did tree watering, and they could hire that nonprofit to water the trees. That's where the NPG came in. It was a neighborhood purpose grant so that a neighborhood council could pay for that tree watering to be done. Never, when the NPGs were created, was it to just put a bulletin out there, hey, we have money, who wants it? Because if you're running your neighborhood council, and Doug's neighborhood council does it differently, but in our neighborhood council, our focus is on outreach. What events are we doing? Where are we going? Whose event is there that we're piggybacking on or sponsoring so that we can get our name out there? What outreach are we doing so that we can meet and talk to as many of our community members as possible? And that's what our focus is, and that's what we're doing. And now I'm going to move into the community impact statements. Doug, did you want to start off on community impact statements and how you guys use them or what they're all about?
Yes, I can do that for you. Community impact statements are really an official statement of the neighborhood council, speaking directly to the city council or to city commissions. Once you've taken a position, primarily on something that comes before the city council or a commission. Our neighborhood council does a lot of community impact statements, not only with the city council. Typically, we might have 4 or 5 motions each month that will end up as statements on the city council's agendas. But we also will file them with primarily the Harbor Commission here in San Pedro. It's a big deal what the court is doing. We will file them often with the Rec and Parks Commission. I mean, one of the things we found that is very effective in using community impact statements, for instance, you know, we have good relationships with police, planning, you know, all the various departments, but, you know, we'll have an issue, say, with one of our parks. And we'll try and deal directly with the regional superintendent, rec and parks, you know, staff, sometimes the city council office to get something done. It doesn't always work. And we will then sometimes file a community impact statement with the Recreation and Parks Commission. That gets their attention. And quite often it works very well when in a commission meeting, someone from the Rec and Parks Commission will say to the, you know, to the general manager, we have a CIS from coastal San Pedro asking about. Can you give us a report? I guarantee you staff at departments hate having those kinds of questions in commission meetings. So that can be a really effective tool if it's used right. In terms of city council, you want to be one of as many CISs filed as possible. Sometimes as many as 20 or 40 neighborhood councils will file those. So it's actually a really good tool if you use it.
Now, Doug, what is the process for your CISs? How do they get started and how do they end up?
Okay, typically, I mean, we have a lot of very active committees that are really good at what they do. So they'll bring a motion, and when they bring the motion, they'll append typically one little sentence that says, file CIS to city council or file CIS to recreation and parks. And it's not actually part of the motion, it's just an information saying if the motion is adopted, this is the next step that we will file this community impact statement. At our neighborhood council, there you get up to 5 filers. They tend to be committee chairs. And at our council, it is the responsibility of that chair who brings the motion to ensure that it's filed. And, you know, I get copied on everything as president, and our vice president normally gets copied. So if we've had a meeting and a few days goes by and I don't see that the CIS has been filed, I will give the chair a gentle nudge.
Okay.
And
So
that's our process.
okay, but so that's one thing that's different from your neighborhood council and our neighborhood council, which is one of the reasons I wanted you to speak today, because our committees are not producing CISs. What we do right now is we have a couple of us that scramble using the legislative stuff that's sent to us, using what we see at other neighborhood councils and then we take them directly to our community improvement and government affairs, which is almost like a pre-executive committee almost. And then we work on what do we think the position of the board would be, which ones do we think the board would want to vote for, and then we agendize those for the executive committee, and then they're gone over again, and then we move them forward to the board. But my goal here today is to start getting the committees to do that part of the work. And that's one of the reasons why I felt it was really important for you to come, because the way you guys do it makes so much more sense. And one of the things I can say is if they're bored, so for example, if one of Doug's committees, say it's the Sunken City Committee, and they write a motion, for the board, and the board starts wanting to wordsmith it and go this way and go that way and make amendments, then they send it back to the committee and the committee reworks it. but the committee is listening to what the points are that the board is saying. One of the things that I always think of, and this is specifically to Roger, one of the meetings I was in, they were wordsmithing about native plants. And one of the things that now they put automatically, it's like a phrase that they have, and that is that all the native plants need to be locally sourced. And that was very interesting to me because yes, a plant that is grown in San Pedro may not grow in Sunland, Tujunga, because we have a totally different weather patterns and totally different heat index and all of those things. So that's what they include in theirs. So I was excited about this, and I think that we need to be filing more CISs. And if we could get each of our committees, so I'm going to go to the A through F that's I can see on my screen. So what are CISs? They're our way of communicating to the city what we want. And we need to send them to committees, to other departments like Doug is suggesting, to their commissions. How do we file them? We write them up and we get the board to approve them and we send them in. Also, if for some reason something comes up and it's important to us, but we don't have a meeting coming up and we can't put one together in time, then all of you can write letters. You can file it through the CIS system, I believe. Doug, am I correct?
There we go. Hit unmute. Yes, yeah. I mean, the CIS portal will let you do all kinds of stuff. You can, you fill out the basic form and you can append documents.
Okay, so as an individual, even though you can't do it as a board member, you can do it as an individual if you want your voice to be heard. Or say, for example, your board voted one way and you don't agree. You can still put in a public comment on the CISs. You can still put something in, just like you can write letters to these places too. And our community members can do the same. So we need to remember that when we put stuff out there, that if we didn't get a chance to vote on it, or we did vote on it, and we could put, that's one thing, Moppy, that we could put out on outreach. We can use our social media to say, hey, if as long as we've already voted on it, the neighborhood council voted to support this. If you'd like to write a letter of support, here's the link. So there's ways that we can use this for outreach also. And
let me jump in, Lydia.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one caveat there.
Okay.
It's okay to send out an email from the neighborhood council, for example, or a text or whatever, social media, saying this is an issue. If you would like to comment, here's the link, or here's where you go. We cannot use any city resources to say, we'd like you to go on and tell them you're in favor or you're against or whatever.
Oh, which position we're taking? Okay.
Right. We
Okay.
can announce the neighborhood council has taken this position if you would like to comment, but we cannot use resources
Okay.
to say, agree with this and tell them. You get what I'm saying? It's a
I
weird
do.
distinction.
I
but
do. And Moppy
Yeah.
saw it too. She just commented. Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I totally get it. I
Yeah.
misspoke it. Yes.
I will tell you, years ago, we did that at Coastal San Pedro, and we did hear from the city attorney.
I bet. I bet. So I think that that's really important. Now, each department of the city has a commission, just about. So say, for example, we have the START committee, Sunland Tujunga Arts and Cultural Affairs. That START committee, that cultural affairs, could be going to, you go to the city and you can receive, and we can show you how to do that. You can receive the agendas from the Arts and Culture Commission. Then you'll know in advance what they're voting on before it goes to the city council. That's the perfect time to see what the issues are, write up a CIS for it, bring it to the board on a position you think that the committee would want to take, and then turn it in. So there's arts and culture. There's, I don't know what beautification, what does that fall under, Doug?
Depends. I mean, it would depends
I would
on what
think
you're beautifying, but it could be, God, it could be anything from general services to DOT to public works. It just depends on the
Yeah.
specific
So
item.
all you have to do is go request their agendas for the committee that matches yours. And there is, and I will be getting some of the more of the telephone books for everybody. But there is a list. If you go online to lacity.org, you can find what city council meetings and the city council committees and commissions, and all of those are listed. We can help you. If you can't find them, call me and I will help you find them. And then you just request those agendas and then they send them to you and you can look at the ones that you think would fall under your committee. And then you just write the CISs and send them in. We do sometimes do things on consent. So as long as they were pre-written and in the packet, you would be able to review them before they came to the meeting. And then probably whoever wrote the CIS for it should present it. But if we could start generating a lot more, that's what the department looks at as a metric, as if your neighborhood council is a good neighborhood council or not, and that is how many CISs you're filing. So I'd like to pick that up a pace. I mean, I know that we do sometimes up to 5 a meeting, sometimes it's 2 or 3, but you can do a lot more if we had more people on the ground looking into those. Find an issue that's important to you. And what I'm saying is, say, for example, Ross, I'm just picking on you because your name's in front of me. So Ross, say you have an interest in, I don't know, the pony rides at Griffith Park. You want to bring those back. And stuff keeps coming up about them. You could take that as an issue for you and you could look up all the stuff that keeps coming up about it and you could submit us CISs on it every time a new one needs to be filed. And we could just keep addressing that issue if that's important to you. So there's a lot of homeless issues. There's so many commissions, there's so many meetings in the city, and we could be weighing in on a lot more and making sure that our community is getting more of the services. It really is the squeaky wheel gets the grease in the city. Okay, so we done CISs. And we have people that file the CISs, so they just need to be written up, sent to us before they come, before they go to the executive board. And we're going to create with MOPI a timeline of when everything has to happen so that we make sure we get things into the right places on time so that we can function better. Go ahead and scan through this. Some of the stuff I wrote up is for you to read. I don't need to read all of it. This is on the difference between a standing and an ad hoc committee. Standing committees are the ones that are in our bylaws. They're the ones that meet every month. Ad hoc committees are things like, hey, we're doing National Night Out. We need a group of people who want to just work on National Night Out. So we can create a small committee that just focuses on that. It's not in our bylaws. And they can just meet. If it's all board members, they don't have to Brown Act post their meetings, but if they include community members, they do. That's just the way it is. But anyway, so those are the difference in the two types of committees. All of our committees right now are standing. I don't think we have any ad hoc committees right now. Usually we'll create the bylaws and standing rules as an ad hoc when it's time to do those things. Cindy, you can scroll up. And then I know we had somebody who was in the audience. I want to try to go back and see if I can capture them. Mark, I thought got moved over. Okay, we have a caller ending 002. I'm trying to bring you in. Can you hear me? Caller,
Looks
and
like you're muted.
I unmuted him.
Yes. Yes.
Is that
you
John
got it.
Bungunton?
Yes, ma'am. This is John.
Okay, I can't move you over to panelist. Do you have any input so far, questions or anything?
No, not to this point. I think, will there be any votes that we'll have to weigh in on?
No, There won't be any votes. We're not taking any action today.
Understood. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, John. And call-in user, I'm gonna try you again.
So who he is and how he got involved and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. John, you're supposed to tell us what made you join the neighborhood council and how long you've been on it and what you'd like to see happen.
Well, thank you. I will try to be terse. I became involved when our neighbor across the street from us suffered a catastrophic robbery, thankfully not a burglary, and they lost thousands of dollars in stuff, and we could not get a police response there to take a report within hours. Turned out that night was a neighborhood watch meeting, so I rode down to that and told the officers they were all bad and wrong for being there chatting when they should be out talking to a family who lost its, jewels and gun safe and things like that. And I just kept parlaying that neighborhood watch response, and eventually a position opened up. Sadly, it was to a death, and I opened it up on the condition that I could be the neighborhood watch representative, which had not been around before. Found no disagreements, was elected just barely over a very bright teenager. And I have been around for probably 7-8 years, mostly trying to do neighborhood watch things. Now timed out on that, so I'm Region 3 rep. What I think we ought to do is try to continue to weld the community together and see if there's any more that can be done to support the whole community. I think we do a good job of that already, but the door needs to always be open. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I cannot unmute the caller number 1. I've tried. Okay, so if anybody has comments or questions and want to raise your hand, please feel free to do that. I should have said that before. So I'm gonna go into the Brown Act. Does the Brown Act apply to committees? The answer is yes. What does that mean to you? It means to you that all of your meetings have to be agendized, Brown Act compliant. Town halls are done differently. So like today's meeting was done differently. All meetings, regular meetings that are at the same time and place as you usually have them, are all considered regular meetings. They have to be posted at least 72 hours in advance. Now, I'm going to tell you, everybody says that, and everybody watches the clock to see when is 72 hours. It makes so much more sense to get them done early and post them early, because you never know what the secretary or the department will be doing at that exact moment, and they may not be able to get your stuff posted right away. If you're that close to the deadline, it might even be that the agenda gets kicked back because they didn't get it in time. It has to be 72 hours. So it's a good suggestion to do it a week before. I can tell you the stat committee, Pat Kramer usually gets her agendas in sometimes 10 days before, because she knows what she's going to have on it, and she just sends it in. So if you know what's going to be on your agenda, please feel free to go ahead and send it in. We'd rather have it sent in early than have it come in late and then have a problem. So it has to be posted 72 hours in advance. If something should come up that is urgent and you have to hold a special meeting for some reason, then it's a 24-hour posting notice. Now, all of you know who to send your agendas to. And Cindy, who are we sending the agendas to now?
They go to secretary@stnc.org.
Okay, they all go to secretary@stnc.org, and then they get posted on the computer. They get on our website, and they get sent to the early notification system. It's up to whoever is sending in that agenda to post it at our posting location, which is at North Valley City Hall. One of the things I wanted to bring up is when we post at North Valley City Hall, we need to use painter's tape. Please do not use any other tape because it leaves tape residue on the windows and it looks really tacky. If you get to the window where you go to post it and you find out that there's 4 agendas there and the meetings have already happened, and I mean that already happened, like 2 days, 3 days, 5 days ago, you can go ahead and take down the other agendas. But please make sure if you're going to take down agendas that they are not meetings that have not happened yet. That has happened before. We need to make sure that we post those agendas, because if we have some community members who like to go and make sure there's an agenda posted, because if there isn't, they like to call the department and have our meeting shut down. So please make sure that you are posting the agendas at North Valley City Hall on the window, and that you've sent it to the secretary, and that you have, so the Brown Act. So the other things on the Brown Act. So when you make your agendas, it has to have all the language that our board agendas have to have. So if you have any questions about how you should be doing your agenda, please refer to the board agendas, okay? Also, you do have to have the language that says translation. Whether you have anybody who needs it or not, you still need to have it on there. Because we don't know if somebody is going to want it or need it, and we need to be able to provide it. And I think I'm the contact information for that, or the contact phone number on it. The other thing is, when you do your agendas, you have to go, you do your agendas by item. You guys all have to do your minutes, but you need to make sure that your motions are clear. If you put discussion and action to purchase 6 boxes of doggy bags, it needs to be voted on by the board. You need to have that vote. You need to put who voted, how many voted yes, who voted no, who voted to abstain. We need to have that information.
You mean the committee?
What?
Do you mean the committee?
Yeah, the committees have to do Brown Act votes. The committees have to vote on the items. And we've had a problem with that, which is why I'm bringing it up. If the committee wants to send something to the board that they want the board to pay for, the committee needs to have taken a vote. And then they need to submit to the board exactly what it is they are purchasing. They cannot say doggy bags, $300. It needs to say the beautification committee voted to approve 600 doggy bags. They're from this distributor. They're this much money, because we have to be accountable for every dime that we spend. And this time we don't have a lot of extra money. In fact, right now we're looking at about $5,000 that is unencumbered. So we have to be very careful with what we're spending. So we need to make sure that when the committees are asking for things, that they have done their groundwork. If you want something, we need to have that information. Just like if I want to submit something, I have to have the information. If Cheryl wants to order pens, we need to know who are they buying the pens from? How much are the pens a piece? How many pens are we purchasing? We have to have that information. And we have to have how many you're ordering, and you know what the purpose is. I mean, a pen, we all know what the purpose is. It's for outreach, it's a giveaway, but we need to have that information. I would not be bringing it up if we did not have problems. So that has to be reiterated. Okay. Are there any questions about what I've said so far? I don't see any hands. Okay. Okay. I like this statement that I found, and it says, the Sutherland Tonga Neighborhood Council is organized into committees to provide adequate consideration, expertise, and deliberation to community issues. Most committees are made up of committee stakeholders and at least one board member. Committees are an opportunity to empower the Sunland Tonga community to come together to weigh in and recommend action to the Sunland Tonga Neighborhood Council on a wide range of issues. Meetings are open to the public. Stakeholders interested in serving on a committee should contact that committee chair. Review the current committees. So currently, and I think we have them all, but if we missed one, let me know. Currently, we have beautification. We have the SPARK committee, which is arts, recreation, and culture. We have budget and finance, the community improvement and government affairs committee, executive committee, the safe traffic and transportation committee, public safety committee, and a senior committee. So the public safety and senior committee are both going to be new with this term. We changed our board seats, so we would have a public safety seat and a senior seat, and they each come with a committee. So my question is, those are the committees we have to work with now. Is there anybody who feels there should be an additional committee that they would be interested in running? So that's one thing to think about. You don't have to answer right now, just know. And then all committees members represent the board. So as board members and as committee members, we all represent the Sunland Tonga Neighborhood Council, but we do not represent the Neighborhood Council on any item that the board has not approved. So for example, if you're going as a representative to ask somebody like street services to fill potholes, you decided you're going to get on the ball because there's a really bad one on your street and you want to call, that's fine. If we're doing community service like that, go ahead and call. You can tell them you're on the committee of the Neighborhood Council. That's fine. But you are not to say, well, our Neighborhood Council took a position on this that we haven't, or going to other levels of government. That's already very iffy. We're not supposed to do it. Y'all know we do it. But we have to do it as a united front. Everything we do as a board needs to be as a united front. We have to all vote and come to a decision, and then we move forward like that on all decisions. Any questions? Doug, do you want to pipe in?
I guess I will a little bit because
Okay.
One of the misconceptions, and I understand a desire sometimes to move forward, especially when time is tight, is that a committee of a board, which has taken a position to recommend to the board an action, and is fairly certain that that action is going to be approved anyway, will sometimes want to say, you know what, why don't we just go ahead and write a letter from the committee saying this is the position? Can't do that. I mean, the committees belong to the board. The accountability to stakeholders is not from the committee, it's from the board. And that's something really important to remember. And it's like anything. I mean, I've had committee members want to say to me, well, is it okay if I go to like the Harbor Commission and say, well, the board hasn't taken it up, but the committee talked to it, and it's like, no, sorry. You can go in there and say, me personally believes this, but not on behalf of the committee. You cannot speak on behalf of the Neighborhood Council. This is a lie, you know, we're all humans. Sometimes we get a little bit close to it, but it's a really important distinction. The other thing I always recommend to everybody involved with the Neighborhood Council don't ever make promises or say things that you have to rely on other people to keep. You know, I've also experienced a really excellent committee chair who basically sort of promised some money to a local cultural organization as an NPG. It didn't happen, and it was very embarrassing for that person. So just a little bit of advice.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, so I'm going to go back. So all committee members represent the board, and what I'm saying that is we all have to act as if we're board members, be professional. All members must follow the same rules as board members. So even though you are a committee member, you still are responsible for following the Brown Act, the bylaws, and we did include those with the links today. Cindy, go ahead.
Back to what you were just talking about. And it would be good to get Doug's thoughts on this too. A lot of people, especially those who've been in the system for a long time, have, you know, history with different departments or council persons, and better, they can say, oh, I'll get that done. And that's fine, or they'll get it done, or they'll attempt to get it done on the outside. Can you talk about why the neighborhood council, why it matters, why it makes a difference? I know you said some of it, but I'm trying to get a little bit more of working, you know, where we're working together on accomplishing things for the betterment of the community.
Did you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, if you can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, here's the thing. You know, I've been doing it for a long time. I've got excellent people as committee chairs and board members and whatnot. And, you know, we've encouraged them to, for example, our Recreation and Parks Committee, our Public Safety Committee. We try really not to silo committees as much as possible, or have people say, well, this is under my jurisdiction, not your jurisdiction. We will sometimes have joint committee meetings. You know, if we have a public safety issue, for instance, that, you know, affects things that are happening in our parks, we'll let both committees take it up and work together on it. You know, I've often said to our board members over the years, look, you do not, for instance, have to bring a motion to the neighborhood council to ask, say, the police to enforce the law. Okay? You don't have to bring a motion to the neighborhood council to say to Recreation and Parks, guys, you need to lock the gates to the parking lot at night so that we don't get people in there holding drunken parties. Those don't need to be official actions unless it rises to the point of, folks, there's nobody listening to me and I need some help. And at that point, we can do those things. But those things which I think rise to the level of having to be an official action, anything that potentially results in a community impact statement needs to go through the process, needs to be voted on by the board. Anything that involves the expenditure of public money needs to go through the process and be voted on by the board. Okay. Anything that potentially may create an official position to speak to government, particularly if government has asked. I know, for instance, down here, our planning department people, you know, if somebody wants to build a doghouse, planning contacts us and says, would the neighborhood council please take a position on this doghouse? Like, okay, we'll take a position on the doghouse. I don't know if any of that's helpful, but like I say, anything that is, again, rule of thumb, results in a CIS, an official position on something, planning, zoning, whatever, to government, or an expenditure of money. I would say those are the absolute requirements for official action.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doug. So what is our responsibility as board members? We know what our responsibilities are. Our job is to show up at our meetings. The job is to follow through on the things we commit to. And then as group representatives, our responsibilities are to do what we can to help people. Sometimes board members feel like they come to the meetings, but they're not sure what to do. And I think Doug gave a lot of examples of what you can do. There's a pothole. You can call on that. They're having trouble with their copper wiring. That's an issue that has to go to CD7 because they do keep a list and they are the only ones who can expedite the wiring being replaced. But we have been told that the wiring can take as long as a year to replace. I know some areas have taken even longer. Some of these things, though, you can do if your neighbor is having an issue and it's something you know who to call. And I'm going to be giving everybody the books. You can give them a department phone number, or you can call the department directly. If it's those kinds of community service issues and you want to do them, you're welcome to. Hold on. And if you have any questions, you can call me. Cindy, go ahead.
Okay, well, you know, we were just invited just about a week or so ago to the new Valley Bureau of Street Lighting on the copper wire theft issue. And the commissioner that's on there is coordinating this with the department the Bureau of Street Lighting, and they're going to be meeting in November. So it's elevated to the point where now collectively the Valley neighborhood councils are getting together to bring the Bureau more detailed information and more issues because it's not getting fixed. So I just wanted to make mention of it because it's not just to go to the council office anymore. There's these other opportunities to go and be directly. Anyway, just so you know.
Yeah. And like I said, I will be getting the books and I will get extras for the committee chairs also there. But also if you go to the city of Los Angeles, they have an online phone list that has like everybody in the city. And you can look them up that way too. So we went over, listen to stakeholders, responsibilities of committees, outreach and community service projects are done through the committees. All committee members need to sign the code of conduct. So we have a new code of conduct that the bond commission is working on. It is in my opinion, and probably Doug's, it's a crazy code of conduct, ridiculous. Most of us have been fighting it, but our board had made a decision last term that all committee members need to sign the code of conduct. So when we go ahead and we vote for the new committee members, all committee members and chairs will need to sign the code of conduct basically within 30 days. So the reason we did that was because we need to make sure that everybody's treating everybody with respect. But the reason last time that we didn't make everybody sign it was because we had already seated those committees and we didn't want to have to make people go sign something that they didn't agree to or know about before they were seated. So when we go to put the committees together, everybody will need to sign the code of conduct. And it likely is going to be voted on anyway by the bond commission. So we're just ahead of the game and we wanted to make sure that everybody signed it so that everybody can feel comfortable at our meetings. We've had a couple issues. I'm just going to bring this up. then we'll go on to agendas. I think most the agenda stuff we covered, but there's a couple points I wanted to make sure we covered. One of them is when it comes to the committees, we have a place on our agenda, on the board agenda, for committees to come report to us. We hope that you come and report. Send somebody from the committee to give a report of what you're working on. The reason I say that is because sometimes what'll happen is we'll get something from a committee and we won't, you know, the committee's requesting money or wants something, and we won't have any idea what they're talking about. We don't have any idea that they've been working on this, or that that they were going to be requesting money for it. There's been no communication whatsoever. So it would be really good if the committee chairs could come every once in a while and just say, hey, this is what we think we're going to work on. And the reason why, and I will use an example, and I'm not trying to pick on a committee, but I just want to use it as an example. One of the committees was working on making 311 signs, and they did their images, they picked what they wanted, and then they sent it to the board. You know, we want these 311 signs and this is how much it's going to cost. And we looked at the 311 signs and said, well, you know, they were pretty, but we asked if there could be a couple changes, and they didn't want to make changes. One of the biggest things was it didn't say anything about the Sunland-Tonga Neighborhood Council on it. Didn't have stnc.org. It didn't have our logo. And they got mad because they didn't want those things on their posters or the signs. So basically they were like, well, then we're not going to have you guys pay for them. We're going to take them somewhere else. And that was okay. But see, had we known that they were working on signs, then we could have told them what they would be required to have. So I'm going to tell you right now, anything that is done that goes out to the public from a committee has to have the STNC name on it. It has to have our logo on it, has to have stnc.org on it, has to have the website, no matter what it is. If it's a sign, if it's a t-shirt, if it's whatever it is, it has to have those things on it, because our priority is outreach. And though everything we do has to outreach for our board, if it doesn't have the outreach stuff on it, then it can get kicked back by the city clerk and it can cause us to have funding issues. So it's not that we're just being picky about it, it's the city that's being picky about it. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Responsibilities for board members, responsibility for group reps, listen to your stakeholders. Okay, one of the things also that I did not mention that I need to mention is when you are putting up your agendas at North Valley City Hall, you want to make sure that you take your phone and take a snapshot of it. We have in the past had problems with people coming and taking them down and then saying we didn't put it up, so they have to cancel the meeting. So it's good practice to just automatically take a snapshot of it. So if it does disappear, you can send us the snapshot that we can send to the department and show, yes, it was posted. So it's just a quick thing and it just makes a big difference. So you don't run into problems. Reporting to the board, submitting agenda requests through the portal. Okay, so if you want something on the board agenda, then it needs to go through the portal. We have on our web. Cindy, would you like to describe the portal?
All right, it's an agenda request. It's a link on the website and it steps you through. You need to be sure to pick, you know, which, you know, it goes to. So first it's going to go to the executive committee. And then
Cindy, could you bring it up and show people?
Sure.
Might be easier if they can see what you're talking about.
And you know, I'd like to ask some, I'd like to make mention of something, stepping back about neighborhood council committees that are functioning under the neighborhood council. I don't know if umbrella is the right word for it, but anyway, and then not getting where they want to go and going off and doing it themselves. I kind of like to get some clarification on that. What was kind of mentioned earlier. Okay, I'm going to share this agenda. So where this is it's under resources, and it's called agenda request. And this is how you step right through, and you can put it into these different formats, and you have the actual request, hopefully as close to wording on the agenda as you'd like it to be. And you can send it to the general board or the executive committee. So we'll get it so it gets on to the board agenda after it's been through your committee. This is where some of our stakeholders might want to send something through to beautification. Maybe they want to see, everybody has, red roses at the front of their doorsteps along Foothill Boulevard. I'm just making something up. And so they would take that to the beautification committee. Maybe they have something for elections or safe streets. Anyway, any of these committees, some of them are not active committees, I noticed, so we'll have to fix that and reduce it down just to the active committees. But that we'll do that later. Okay. Does that answer your question, Lydia?
Yes. Does anybody have any questions about that? If so, please raise your hand. Patty Potter, go ahead, Patty. Go ahead, Patty. We can't hear you.
Hear me okay?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, Cindy, when you said to send it, when we send it, do we send it to the executive board or to the governing board? I mean, I know does it have to go to the executive board first, or which one do you want us to send it to?
It does go through the executive committee, because we have to when we set the agenda, the purpose of the executive committee is to set the agenda for the board.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure. So
Yeah.
if I have a support letter, I'm going to be sending it to the executive.
Yeah, because we're going to draft the.
Right, just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, to get it too. And
Then
then
you will send it on to the board.
yes, and this is also a place for you that if someone was coming in to get something on the agenda to the land use committee, then this is another way they can submit those things as well, and it goes to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So Cindy, you had a question. What was it?
Well,
Was it for Doug?
yeah, kind of, sort of. You were talking about how people have issues, they make their agenda and they have things that they bring up at the committee meeting level for, in the hopes that they're going to get them through the board, or things that they're going to work on through the committee, whatever it might be. It could be maybe we want a new median or, those medians down the center of Foothill Boulevard type of thing. That's a big project. So, but they're not getting anywhere with the neighborhood council because there's a lot of costs, there's a lot of this, but they can get more done on their own, perhaps. So what happens when, you've utilized the resources of the neighborhood council all this time, and then, oh, we're just going to go get it done? I mean, I don't know that matters or not, but I'm bringing it up because, these committees are all part of what makes up the council. So I don't know, maybe I'm bringing up something too complex.
Would you like me to address that?
Yes, Doug.
Okay. Here's how I can only speak for what we do down here. Down here being the other end of LA and not hell. We have a point of view at the neighborhood council. At least I hope we have. We've tried to foster it this way. 20 plus years ago when we started out, it was the way we introduced ourselves to the community, because you know, like every community, there's PTAs and neighborhood watches and, you know, fraternal clubs and neighborhood associations and all the rest of it. And we said, look, we are not here to take over your jobs. We are not here to get in your way. You know, we see the neighborhood council as sort of the hub of the wheel. And in an ideal situation, we're here to bring government resources to make government aware of and responsive to what you need, but also to connect you to each other to get things done. It's funny that you mentioned medians. We have Paseo del Mar that runs along the ocean that is at one point 100 feet wide. It is incredibly busy. People who jog, run, push strollers, and love to race up and down the street. It's amazing that very few people have been killed over the years. We have been working on this project for more than 2 decades. We have done it in conjunction with other groups. We're still working on it. And if some other group came along and got it done, our neighborhood council would be thrilled. You know, that's what we're about. We do everything we can to empower other people, other organizations. And if, you know, we don't own it, you know, they own us. And I think that's our attitude. And we'll work like mad to get things done. But more importantly, we'll work like mad to get the people who can get things done better, more quickly, come up with the money. You know, that's what's important to us. And, you know, I guess that's the way I've always looked at it. I mean, I can think of, we ended up with a dog park here. And when they came to the neighborhood council, we said, we'll do everything to support you, but bluntly, you can get this done more quickly than we can, because you don't have to follow the Brown Act and you don't have to jump through all the legalistic hoops. And they got it done. They got it done quicker than we could. And it's fine with us.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, so the next part of the thing was documents, and I hope all of you have what Cindy's been putting on the screen. If not, it should be on the page. And that basically is things that I found that I've gone through, the pamphlets that I've pulled to back up statements. There's a section called documents. It's the bylaws, the standing rules, the code of conduct, the Public Records Act. These are all things that are important for you to know, but I don't need to read and go over all of them. I think the only one I want to mention right now is the Public Records Act. So say, for example, I'm not trying to pick on people, but say, for example, Carol, we're at the board meeting and Carol texts me during the board meeting, and somebody in the audience says, oh, it looks like Carol just texted Lydia. They could put in a PRA request for our texts at that meeting. Or if I'm not using my STNC email and they say, I want all information from this email, and it's not my STNC email, you do have to comply, and committees have to comply too. So I'm just giving you the heads up that if you should, all committee members too should have a separate email that they use for their committee business. Because if somebody does do a PRA request, it is all, you have to respond. You have to turn it over and the city attorney gets involved. So I just wanted to give you that heads up. We do get PRA requests, that they're not unusual. So luckily none of our committees have had to get them, but they do happen. So I'm just letting you know. So Cindy, go ahead and skim through documents. People can read those on their own. I don't want to bore people. We're going to go into the funding. So as you know, we get $32,000 a year is what we've gotten this year. The mayor seems to feel that we should be getting more money, but she's not sure when she can give us that money. So she is looking into it. And so right now we have 32,000. As all of you know, we are paying for meeting locations, which has taken a big chunk of our money. The storage, which has taken a chunk of the money. But we are working on those things, and we are working to cut where we can. So NC funding program expenditures, all expenditures made.
We need to see, you know, I almost,
What, Carol?
oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking aloud to myself. Sorry, I thought it was muted. I'm sorry.
It's okay. The NC funding program, all expenditures made by an NC are intended for the purpose of the general public's benefit and must be approved by board action at a Brown Act compliant board meeting prior to the expenditures. Expenditures made by the NCs must abide by all laws, rules, regulations applicable to NCs. Expenditures must be approved by the board during the same fiscal year the expenditure is to be executed. If approval occurs in a prior fiscal year as part of a larger planning effort, for example, a strategic annual budget plan, the expenditure must be reaffirmed during the fiscal year when the expenditure is to be made before the expenditure is executed. So there are some things on here that I kind of highlighted. I did send you guys in there the link to the funding manual so you can go through it. But I did want to go through some of these things. Unacceptable purchases and transactions with NC funds, any purchases made without prior approval of the board, and any purchases that are not identified in the NC's approved budget, such as gifts of goods or money, toys, food, clothing items, school supplies, movie tickets, gift cards, plaques, raffles, or other similar items of value that serve an individual and or personal use, regardless of the value, are not allowed, such as NC funds is considered a gift of public funds, which the state law prohibits. Any purchases and or capital improvement projects that impact the value of private property or do not benefit the general public. Events or projects that do not have the required insurance, permits, or contracts. Third-party payments must be made to vendors who have billed the NC directly for services or products rendered and under the responsibility and or sponsorship of the NC. Purchases that violate the constitutional separation of church and state. Cities' funds cannot be used to endorse religion and or interfere with free religious exercise. And a purchase that violates state and city conflict of interest laws. So I'm gonna go over this quick part about outreach, but there's gonna be more. We probably will do an outreach town hall when Moppy is gonna be creating a plan, and we're all gonna go to her plan. We're all gonna set up, like, if you're gonna send in something to the board to go on the agenda, when does it have to be done by? We're gonna set a calendar. And I think that we'll probably do another something like this to kind of put it out there to everybody. So outreach of priorities and responsibilities. What is outreach? The region reps and group rep seats we don't have anymore, but the region reps, what are they supposed to be doing? Teaching the community how to make public comment on council files. So that's one of the things we haven't really worked on, is making sure that our communities know, like, how to make public comment. Like, they can come to our meetings and make a statement, they can write in on them. That's something we could actually work on Moppy to do as like outreach bubbles on like Facebook or on social media, kind of a walkthrough 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. Teaching the community how to put items on the agenda. If communities need to put it to committees, committee has to review it first. Teaching the community how to submit letters, letters that would go with what maybe CISs were doing, and outreach events. The event forms is another one. So event forms, why do we do event forms? we do event forms because when we do the event forms, that the city looks at us and says, okay, they're going to hold an event. Usually you don't have to do an event form if you're not spending money, but events, if we're doing, for example, a cleanup, so you're going to go do a cleanup. If you have filled out an event form, hey, we have 10 people and they're going to go, I'm using you an example, Roger, 10 people and they're going to go clean up the welcome garden every Wednesday. If they filled out an event form and submitted it a month in advance, and you could probably submit 3 months in advance at once, just do the same form, just copy it and change the date. Then if somebody was joining you or you guys were working and somebody got injured, you would be covered under the city's insurance. But if you don't fill out an event form, then you're not covered. The other thing is working with the city on their cleanups and their events. You can go directly to, I'm not sure what department it is. It's one of the public works departments, sanitation maybe, and they will supply tools and bags, garbage bags and gloves and things for you to do the cleanups, and then they come back and pick up the trash. So there are advantages to working with the city to do some of these events. But if you want to do events, you need to fill out event forms. That's the way that you are protecting not only yourself, but the community members. Submitting items for purchase, food, mailers, flyers. We've already talked about that. They need to come from committee, and they need to be spelled out to us what they're for and what you want. Movies in the park is something we've talked about doing. We'd like to buy the equipment. We may have to wait till next year's budget. We'll see. We'll see what we can do. Outreach at existing events. We all need to be looking for who's having events. The church is having an event. If McWherty Arts is having an event, we can always ask if we can have a table. Regional outreach events. Those are the ones, we haven't done regional ones in a while, but they used to do like an emergency preparedness fair. That was for the whole valley. So you can do those. Meet and greet. We can hold small meet and greets. That will go through the outreach committee. Door knocking, that's possible too. The department says that they have extra people right now on staff. If we want people to door knock, we can take advantage of that. If we want to print something up or have something we'd like handed out, they'll help us go door to door. Duties of board members and committee members. Prepare the CISs for the board. We need to find and submit statements on council files before they get to the city council for final approval. If it gets to the city council, it's too late. They don't care. They will not let you speak. And if you do speak, they don't care because it's already pre-programmed for them to vote yes on whatever it is that is before them. So we need to make sure that when we're filing CISs that we need to get them in as early as we can. And that's why going to the committees and the commissions are a good way to get it advance notice of the issues. Provide contact point for the community, give feedback to the community, and check for council files. So we're all going to work on that. 8 is the city attorney and 9 is conflict of interest. So anytime any city business, we have had problems with this, which is why I'm bringing it up. Anytime any city business is before a neighborhood council board member that involves a business in which he or she is a member or his or her family has an investment, an entity of which he or she is an officer or director or holds some position of management, real property in which he or she is a member or his or her family has an interest, a source of income to him or her or member of immediate family. Basically what that says is, I'll give us some examples. If somebody on the board belongs to the Elks Lodge, the city attorney, if they're just a member, usually the city attorney says it's okay to vote. But say, for example, you are married to somebody who's on their board, then the city attorney is likely to say you need to recuse yourself. So if you see something coming up on our board and you think, oh, me or somebody in my family is related to that or is part of that, then you need to contact the city attorney as soon as possible. And I say as soon as possible because sometimes it can take a week or two before they ever get back to you. And if they haven't gotten back to you, then we'll always recommend that the board does not take action, that the item continues to get postponed until the city attorney has spoken. So if you're on a committee, if you're on if you or a spouse is on the board of a nonprofit, you should contact the city attorney and ask them, what is the relationship? Can I vote on things? Because if you don't, and the issue is important, or there's a deadline on it, it could really mess things up. And if you vote on it and you didn't get the city attorney's opinion, and the city attorney afterwards decides that you should have recused yourself, then they can shut down that payment and your board may not be able to ever make a payment to that organization again. So it's really important, if you think you might have a conflict of interest, to contact the city attorney. Now, say you're having another city attorney question about something, then please feel free to contact me. I know you would think it should be confidential, but the city attorney only has one contact per board, and it's the president. And I promise you, if you come to me, I will keep whatever you say totally confidential. But the city attorney is the one who makes all these determinations, and we don't want to get ourselves into trouble. So now moving on to let's see.
What section are we on?
You're going to where it says 10 board members inquiry.
10?
Yeah, 10, not that one, the other 10.
Did we do the other 10 duties of board member?
Yeah, we already did that.
We did that.
Mhm.
Oh, there must be more than 110.
There is.
Okay, number 13. Is that what you're talking about? Board members?
Yeah, did you renumber them?
I don't know.
I think so. Okay, well, that other 10 was the item number 10 in the funding manual, which is why I had left the 10 there, but that's okay. We're good. Okay, so we just went over questions for the city attorney. Social media policy. They are working on a social media policy. Again, it's not the best policy. But we're going to have to follow it when we get it. Right now, we are not posting anything that is not a city event or one that we are sponsoring. If it's Coffee with a Cop, if it's Neighborhood Watch, those are fine, but we're not copying any that a nonprofit is putting on at this time unless we are a sponsor of it. Okay. Because that is what is going to be in the new policy. There is no requirement for us to record our meetings. I want to bring that up because that has been an issue with some neighborhood councils. We generally do record them, but the minutes are what is required for a meeting. C, texting during meetings. I already brought that up. Texting, if you text during meetings, those texts are available to the public. D's PRA requests, we talked about that. E, workplace harassment. And F is the outreach calendar that MOPI is going to be putting together a whole program to snap us in shape and get us in line and get us working together and get us on a good track where we're all organized. And then the question is, who is doing what and when? So I'm going to actually use that right now. And I'm going to ask you, who's doing what when? Or what do you want to do? What now that you've sat through this meeting training, what comes to mind? I guess I just want to kind of get some feedback. What comes to mind? What What do you see? What do you have questions about? What have we talked about that you would like to give some input about or have more questions about? Raise your hand. Or let me go to Doug first. Doug, what other input would you have?
Or in general,
Any of it.
or
Yeah,
what?
just in general. What did we not cover? What do
well-
you think they should know?
Actually, there was one thing that you were talking about, putting stuff up on your website or publicizing stuff from other groups.
Uh-huh.
And just recently at Coastal San Pedro, we have a lighthouse down here, of course, a historic lighthouse. And I recommend to everybody that it's worth the trip down here because it was built in 1874. And if you come down for the tour, they take you all the way up into the lantern, which is really cool. I mean, who can say that they've been all the way up in the top of the lighthouse? Anyway, there is another historic lighthouse, but it's out on the end of the breakwater and you can't get out there. But we have a Lighthouse Society. They have an annual fundraiser. They sent us the flyer and said, could you post it on the website? And as much as I would love to, as I have pointed out over the years here and there to board members as they come onto the board and are new, we have to be very careful because we cannot, as a government agency, say, well, we love the Lighthouse Society. It's really a cool thing that they're doing and we support this. Because if we post their fundraising flyer and another group comes along and says we're doing an event at Point Fermin Park and we're holding a fundraiser and they happen to be, oh, I don't know, the white nationalist, sewing circle, it's like, we can't say yes to them and no to them. And so it's easier, frankly, just to say no to everybody. And I know it's a hard thing for a lot of folks to understand, but we're government. We got a different standard. We have to follow rules. So that's just one thing that I think a lot of folks don't understand. And it's like, unfortunately, we have to follow one size fits all.
Yeah, I actually just made this comment to somebody the other day, wanted to put out something we've always advertised. And it's like, look, on your own personal page, you can post whatever you want. Yeah. But on the board page, no. Cindy's hands up. Hold on. Go ahead, Cindy.
Well, I have a different thought on this because I do think things that the neighborhood council has taken up and either sponsored or has sponsored perhaps in the past should be considered. I think perhaps I see it broadly in the neighborhood councils across the city. A lot of them promote a lot of different things. Some of them not even city things. They're county or other organizations. When we started in the neighborhood council, we were to identify our assets. And I think these groups and organizations are our assets. When you see the city light the city hall for different times, I think they've got I never knew what it was, Dia de los Muertos. Some of these things I didn't know about. And if it wasn't that they are brought out, then you find out about them. Anyway, I don't disagree with what Doug is saying, but I think that it also could be unique or more perhaps identified by the neighborhood council, per neighborhood council, because but then, you're never going to please everybody. Somebody's going to think that there's some negative about it, I guess. But, McGroarty Art Center for us in this community, we were passing the hat when we started in the neighborhood council system to keep them afloat. And it's significant. Little Landers, Bolton Hall was ripped apart and was thrashed And if it wasn't for the people of the community, it might not be what it is today. So these kinds of things, I think, they're assets. And so I think that maybe it's something to have a little bit more conversation about, but I don't know. I'm just giving you some thoughts, and maybe I'm misinterpreting some of it.
But let me just jump in and say there's always more than one way to handle things. If, for instance, the Point Fermin Lighthouse Society's event is being co-sponsored or partially sponsored by the Department of Recreation and Parks, no problem. For instance, the Port of Los Angeles does a lot of events. The Port of LA, city agency, we don't have a problem advertising them. If the neighborhood council is either sponsoring, co-sponsoring, or even participating, for instance, there's an annual health fair that's held down at Cabrillo Beach. They always ask us to come down and table, and we do. You know, we'll throw that up and say, hey, come down to the health fair on Saturday. The neighborhood council will be there. I mean, there are a lot of ways to handle this stuff. But you have to be careful and somewhat clever about it. I'll put it that way.
Okay, thanks, Doug. So I went back in and tried to get caller user 1 to be able to unmute. And John and Mark, I have you guys to unmute too. So does anybody else have any comments or questions or anything that we said that you question or want more information? Anything else? What other types of trainings would you like to have? And by the way, I go down to Coastal San Pedro once a month. So if anybody'd like to go down there with me, it's really interesting down there. And they do all the, well, it overlooks all the big cranes and the storage containers that are coming off the ships, and it's kind of a neat community. It's neat to go down there. So I go down there once a month. If you ever want to go with me, give me a call and you can ride down with me and go to their meeting. Ross, nothing from you? Did we feed you too much information?
No, the information's fine on it. Everything's pretty understandable. I'm kind of confused here. I know there's plenty of, legalities when it comes to the separation of like church and state and stuff, but some of the things that we're not directly donating to, if by like happenstance, like let's say we wanted to highlight all of the local area businesses or clubs or churches or whoever, whatever kind of religious organization they are, that are running toy drives around Christmas. And we wanted to promote all those to give people the opportunity to donate to those around that time of year. Let's say that they don't even call it for Christmas. They just say for holidays or whatever it is. Would we run into any kind of interference if like a particular church or like religious organization volunteered that they were going to run one? Like, would that be in conflict with the other independent businesses and clubs and we wouldn't be able to support any of them? Or how would something like that work?
Well, I think it would depend, one, on who's doing it, and two,
Could I offer
yeah, I
a
was
suggestion
just
here?
gonna say, let's
Okay.
let Doug answer that one.
All right, let me offer you a suggestion. What you can do on your website, for instance, or if you do like we do an email every so often saying here's upcoming meetings and some other things. You can say, for instance, at holiday time at the end of the year, for a list of organizations, running toy drives in our area, go to. And quite often there will be some entity, like I think we have sanpedro.com, and they run calendars of community events. We have a local publication called San Pedro Today. You can link to those and say, check their calendar. They'll tell you where to go to donate money, donate toys, volunteer for the Thanksgiving, turkey giveaway, whatever it is. I think those are legitimate, directing folks to places that have that kind of information. I think that's fine. And because a lot of that'll include, you know, churches and whoever else, but you're not doing it directly.
Yeah, and as a board member, you can use your own Facebook, social media to put out places. But as a board, we can't, because unless we are sponsoring. Now, say for example, Bolton Hall decides to do a holiday sing-along and toy drive, and they allow us to have a booth at the event, and we're, you know, gonna take in toys, then that would be fine. Then we would put that out. So it just is, it depends on how active we are, if we're a part of it, or like Doug said, if we are just sending them somewhere they could access the information. Any other questions? No questions, no comments? How come I see a hand? Oh, there it is. Moppy, go ahead.
Second. Hi, thanks. I was just gonna say, I thought it was really helpful when Cindy kind of put up the screen share for the agenda request, kind of like actually walking through all of the tools. So maybe this is for like that outreach town hall that you mentioned, but I think that just any of the reoccurring things that we are encouraging committee members or, you know, board members to do, maybe we can come up with like a list of those and actually just like screen share and do it, so people are a little bit more familiar, and when they get there to do it themselves, they'll, you know, have familiarity with it. No, I'm still learning a lot of it. And then I do think that even with the website and the vastness of ability and access, and, you know, figuring out how we're empowering our committee chairs to, again, contribute, so the contributed it more even. I just wanted to say, like, thanks for doing that exercise, and I think that in the future that will be really helpful for everyone to just learn and empower themselves.
Yeah, so Moppy, I was just thinking of something I wanted you to do. When we get together, actually what it is you made me think of something I wanted to tell Cindy. Cindy, could you put the website up on the screen and give like a basic overview, so people know where to find stuff?
It's so funny that you said that, because I was just gonna ask you if I could have a
While
couple
you're
more-
doing that, I want to mention, Moppy, can you come back on? Moppy, tell them what you're looking for the newsletters, what Cindy and you are looking for in newsletters, in case any of our committee chairs or board members have stuff they'd like to contribute.
Yeah, I think in the short term, because the way that we're kind of tackling.
You please.
Yeah. I don't know how to do that right now. I feel appreciative that my son has been so patient for the past 2 hours. I think we're organizing it in short-term attainable things, short-term system processes we need to uncover and set. But in short term, the monthly newsletter is some focus on, because it's we're able to put, you know, other events, outreach events we're going to be attending, as committee meetings, special guests at things. But I think right now what I'm saying is the of that information, similarly to what Doug was speaking about, like how the committee and the boards are working very closely together. That's what we're hoping to instill in our board and our committee chairs, is that collaborative environment, and how best we can make it as easy as we can for our committee chairs to give us that information in advance, to request the information, help them create an asset to promote on socials. You know, our Facebook is very active, our Instagram, we're growing, but it is that, you know, ability to make it easy for people to come and send the info. So for our newsletter, we're just trying to like gather photos from your events so we can promote them, create albums, just kind of like get the word out there while also establishing ourselves in a way that is showcasing all of the work that is happening, because there's so much great work happening, but there's a missed opportunity on posting it, on sharing it, in promoting it in advance to get that attendance. So that's kind of short term, and our long term, there's a long list. So I'm happy that we'll have kind of a town hall take that down, and I'm really excited to get people's ideas and their visions for their individual committee and their visions and contributions, because even just from our introductions, all of us are here from such different angles and we all bring different things to the table, and that honestly is like what is exciting about working in an organization like this. So it's just about making the time to kind of lay it out on the table and then reworkshop it in something that makes sense for everyone.
Right. Thank you. Okay, looks like Cindy's got the website up.
Okay, so we now have our upgraded website, and I'll just go over a few little things. Some of the things are very similar to what we had. It's just they function a little better. We have all the menu across the top. This is a resources tab, which has the bylaws and various documents. We now also have a gallery. So when you're out at events, especially for the committees now, and you take a few pictures, we're going to make it so that you can yourself, you'll have access to be able to upload your photographs and place them in a gallery folder. Projects have to do with mostly land use, but they can also be other projects. Documents are various documents that the neighborhood council, through the years, we've gone from, you know, paper, a lot of paper, and now everything's a lot more electronic. So you'll find a lot of history here, but there's just a variety of documents. And then I've already talked about agenda request, and you know about bylaws and elections. That will be changing to go towards the next election cycle later on. And down here, there's a link to the old site. We've had about 3 or 4 different sites through the time that the neighborhood council has been in existence. Contact is when people wish to contact and send a message just about something, and it goes to 3 or 4 members of the executive committee. News is where these things that are, I'm sorry, let me go back to the front page. These items down here also can be over here, and some of them are over here, but there's also some that don't make it to the front page of the website. So this is another good place to check that things just get parked. We receive things that we want to share with the community. Council actions is an area that we're working on when the board takes action. So we want to make it there a one-stop place for that. This is where the committees are. So the links to all the committees are here. And so we want for, let's say, beautification, right from the bylaws, it will have all the, you know, what's in the bylaws plus anything else that the committee wants to submit. So this is something that should be looked at. If it needs to any updating, to please let us know. It shows, you know, where the regular meetings are held. And then this is the archive, and the beautification committee is great at making sure that they have their agendas and then their minutes follow. So they're excellent at that. There's a lot of history. It goes back, it's been around for a while. And then there's the other committees, general board, executive, things like that, also with all the rest of these. Okay, the board, we have a new board now, and we really need to get everybody's photograph. If you're not in here, and you don't have a photograph, please send it to us. Just submit it to, in that contact or just email us directly so that we can get it. If you want a different picture than what you have here or whatever. And then also in addition to that is each person has a, why I'm involved. And some of these were taken from when you ran for office, but just a little something about you, and then a direct way to contact you directly. This is how the person would send a message to Carol in this case, in this example. So I really like to get the board up to date right away. So if you're missing from here, please send those in.
We
Okay.
like to say how young and pretty we all look.
Oh, yeah. This is the calendar, and some of them are meetings. That's the green color. Others are news. When we, like was announced before, the Stark Committee, I'm sorry, the stat didn't meet this month, so they had a canceled meeting, and so it shows so that the public knows that that is canceled. The board also has some Empower LA training coming up, and so that's there. It's part of the Empower LA group, so it's placed there too. And then these are the upcoming meetings next week, and unless somebody changes them. The links to the social media things are here. We do have a Vimeo account, which has a lot of old movie type things. As I said, technology's advanced through the years, but we did a lot with movies or video, and those are housed over there for different town hall style events. And you can see back on some history there. The phone number, we're working on switching over as the board took a vote on that. So you'll see some of that later. If you have any suggestions, Karen Moran is helping tremendously with a lot of getting caught up on a lot of things like this with the board. And she's also, so we're going to work together with Moppy to I'm more history, and they're going to make it more fine-tuned with being more up to date. So, we're collaborating and working together to make it better. So I hope that makes sense. Anyway, Lydia, does that?
Yeah, that helps. So can you go to the contact part, Cindy? Now, does it list us with our email addresses so that we can contact each other that way?
You would need to go to the board list here. And so if you wanted to contact Lydia, you'd go this way.
That's Lala.
Person that way. If you want me to explore if they can do that, they would have to put up a list or something.
Okay, well, at least then we need to put a roster together with all the contact information.
Well, we have the roster. The roster has been updated and turned into the city. So that's another place that you can get at Empower LA. Are you still able to see the screen?
Yes.
Let me see if I can take you there.
You spelled Empower wrong.
Empower.
So for new board members, this is a place that you're going to spend a lot of time. Empower LA does a lot, .org does a lot. You can check up every neighborhood council. You can find out about all kinds of stuff by clicking on those different boxes. That's all the neighborhood councils, what day of the month they meet and where they meet.
Yes. So there's Sunland Tahunga, and they have our website link there. They show we meet second Wednesday at 7 p.m. And this is our address. And this is when we were certified. We were the 70th neighborhood council to be certified. And this is our field rep, our funding rep. This is our boundary map. These are all current. And then they have our prior budgets also. But I think what Lydia was talking about is, if you wanted to email directly to Lydia, you could do that from here also. This also shows when your training is coming up. So the anti-bias is a one-time deal, but the The other three have to be redone every two years. And the Planning and Land Use, or Land Use Committee also has a training requirement of Planning 101. And these are all the folks that have completed that. And I don't know when the next training is for that.
Cindy, Sherry has her hand up. I'm going to grab her because she was interested in land use. Sherry, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing particular to land use on this comment. But I have been on the Empower LA, and I'm just wondering, in our website, is there also a tab that similar to like the little summary that came out for this meeting that is board and committee member resources? Having a single landing page is very helpful to not have to remember to go here, there, and everywhere. And you may have already walked through that, and if you did, I apologize. But
On this website, I know they've talked about it a lot.
I'm talking about on ours.
Oh, on ours. Say
Yep.
that again then.
She's looking like we have our bylaws and we have our standing rules. The standing rules have to be voted on because they're not up to date at all. But we don't, you mean as far as like the different documents I sent you the links to?
Yep, and things like Empower LA website link.
That's right. It usually is right in the front page. We'll check that. Okay. Yeah, that should be right here on the front page. It usually is. They usually automatically put it there. I'm surprised it's not there. Interesting. Okay. Good point. See? Thank you. But as far as documents, there's this link which has, we have specific plans and community plans for our area. This is just a number of different documents. Some are specific to specific projects. This needs a lot of updating. We've done a lot through the years, but there's more updates that need to be done.
There's one that says STNC doc. Oh, that's probably one of the projects.
Mhm.
We can see, because Cindy, do we have a place that we could put like the link to the funding manual and the link to the stuff I sent you today? The bylaws are here already. And then,
Because if you go to Empower, well, where we have it, it's right here. Where are we today? This meeting, all those things, here's today's agenda. And here's the training detail. And then there's the,
and there was the links.
yeah. So it's there, but you're only going to know to look for it by the date. So having it in a resource list, that would be, that's possible. This website doesn't have, if you want to talk about funding with the neighborhood council system, you have to go to.
Well, Cindy, go to the homepage. Go to the homepage. Because like the policies, like the bonk policies, they're here. They're under commission.
Right.
So the policies that the bonk commission has put together is under here. It's under, I think it's under initiatives, or no, there it's community agendas, meeting minutes, policies. It's the second one. So the drafts under construction, that would be the posting policy and the code of conduct that they're working on.
This one is the digital communication. And then this
Which
is code of conduct.
So those are the policies that the commission is working on. So there really isn't a place for everything. You're right, that Dunn should have that, but go back to the homepage, Cindy, see if they have.
Oh,
On home, I think they have a place that says important documents.
If they just had a sidebar or something with it, I'm sure they're working on it. But here you have to go to self-service, and then you got to scroll down here, and this is where you get to the funding, and then it takes you to the city clerk's website.
It says self-serve, board member trainings. That's where you go to sign up to do your trainings.
Public can see how much money that all of the neighborhood councils spend individually as well as collectively.
Yeah, show them about the San Hunger. It's in there.
Okay. So these are our MERs. That's the big important thing. We're just started a new fiscal year, so there's only July there so far. These are what we pay on our P card. You click on it and then you can see the detail. And you click on the area and then you can see the detail. Payment requests, those are the ones made by check. You click on it and then you can see the detail. And then this is our budget that the board approves, and it's by the different, you know, how we've allocated it on the different categories that we can allocate it. General open expense, neighborhood purposes, grants, community improvement projects, outreach, for example. Encumbrance accounts, I don't think we have any special accounts.
Allowed them do it, are we?
I think you can, Doug may know, but neighborhood council, some from year to year will put money aside. I'm not sure what the hoops are to go through to do that, but let's say you wanted to put a median down Foothill Boulevard and it was going to cost, you know, $15,000-$20,000, but your budget's only 32 and you want to put away $5,000 a year for 5 years. I would think that's what you would use the encumbrance account. And then when you got the $30,000 or whatever, then you can go do the project. I'm not sure how that.
Let's ask Doug. He's here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So normally they will not do an encumbrance unless there are unusual circumstances. I will point out that not this fiscal year, but last fiscal year, they allowed it for coastal San Pedro because there was a large expenditure. We made all the deadlines and basically the city clerk dithered. And because they dithered and it was their fault that it was not paid out in the current fiscal year, they created an encumbrance. They have indicated to us that in a special circumstance, maybe like that median or special project, they might be willing to make an exception and create an encumbrance. But it's not something that they will do normally unless there are seriously extenuating circumstances. Or if they're in a really good mood. You never know.
No, I went to the funding training and we were specifically told we don't get to do encumbrances because say our elections, they come around every 2 years. Well, we aren't allowed to encumber funds from say this year for next year's elections. We got to take the entire thing out of next year's budget, which I think is really silly. But anyway, that's.
I agree with you. And that's what they tell everybody. But we have discovered that there are exceptions. So,
well, maybe we should try it for the elections.
I mean, I got to tell you, it's worth a try. Like I say, if you catch them in a good mood, you never know.
Okay, I will.
So,
shouldn't work that way.
There's also special accounts, and we had one. Sometimes the politicians are generous and they'll give us some money. And I think this was the time when they gave each of the 99 neighborhood councils $1,000 a piece. I'm not sure exactly if that's what it was, called the Clean Street Fund. And so it stayed over there and the board has to vote to take the money from there, from that account. And I think this all ran through the beautification committee at the time. But that's that kind of thing. It'd be nice to see something like that again in the future, but I don't know about those. And I told you about MERs and I told you about that. And I think I covered it. Yeah. So anything else you want to know about the funding? You have a raise.
Sherry has her hand up. Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, not specific to this, but it is helpful just to, see it and know that it's out there. I can put together like things that I see in email that would be nice to have in a central spot. There's kind of this concept of FOMO. Mine is FOBO, fear of being overwhelmed. So by having stuff in a single location, it definitely helps. And just seeing this has been very helpful too.
It can be very overwhelming, and we've been through it with going from paper and to tapes, and now everything's digital. So it's so much easier. There's a streamline of things to make our lives much easier now. But we still have work to, communicate with everybody. That's still really important.
So Sherry, contact me, talk to me offline.
You broke up a little bit. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, talk to me offline. Give me a call and we'll talk about the different policies and stuff.
Okay.
Lydia, a lot of people come in and get involved in something like the neighborhood council or a different organization because they see a need of something that they want to accomplish. And,
yes,
some of us have been around doing this for some time, and it's not that we want to be doing it until we die kind of thing. It's that we're looking for folks to come up and have the
take our places.
But everybody has their place, of the things that get them excited, and so I sure like to know what that is, because some people are more, I want to be involved in all the, all the correspondence and whatever I can do to help in the background. I want to be out there in the face of the community. We have, trash issues in the community. How come we can't get anything done about that? The bulky items and things like that. How do we get the region reps to get more people aware of the neighborhood council? Things like that. And, there's just a variety of things, and it'd be nice to hear from everybody what they're, what gets them excited. Why? Maybe they don't know yet. Maybe it's too early, they want to kind of get their feet wet and see more how the processes go. And today's been really good, but I really like to, because I get excited when I see and hear people that are out there, making a difference, and connecting all of us, and everyone's kind. I mean, we've been through a lot in this 20 years of neighborhood council, so there's a lot for us to share with each other. But anyway, I just want to, say all that. There you go. I'll have more to say at some point.
Okay, well, I am excited, of course. I love working with everybody. Everybody I've met on this board is amazing, and the committees, I mean, I think it's great. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I think I just suddenly disappeared. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. I'm not gonna keep you all day. We'll go ahead and end. But before we do, I just want to, does anybody have any comments? Does anybody see what, now that you've kind of gotten a bird's eye level of what's going on, is there other trainings you'd like to take? Is there specific other information you'd like to have? I do want to remind people that there is a Congress of Neighborhoods on the 23rd. It's kind of like an all day, kind of like a convention, if you want to say that, where there'll be some training sessions. It's always good to kind of meet other neighborhood council leaders. Also on August 31st, there is a town hall, or not a town hall. There is an event at City Hall. We can talk about carpooling over there. Maybe it is to where you can meet the different board members. It's kind of like a welcome party for the board members that Dunn is putting on at the Bradley Tower, which is at the top of the tower at City Hall. Doug, are you going on the 31st?
Yes, I will be there.
So you'll all get to meet Doug. So I'll be going too. So if people are interested in going, it's free. Let me know, but we're probably going to need to RSVP, but I'm sure I can get that for everybody. Anyway, so keep in touch. Let me know. Sherry, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just with the event next weekend, that is the farmers market.
Yes.
I assume we're still going to be doing that and hope to see folks there.
Okay, that's on Saturday.
Yep, 8 to noon.
Okay. Carol, did you want to talk about Saturday? Maybe it's not Saturday. Hold on. We're gonna need some help. First of all, let's go. Cindy, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 3:25. Cindy, could you stop the recording?